So recently New World decided to release a new expansion called New World Aeternum. At least that's what I thought at first, but it turns out it's not really a new expansion at all. This is more of a re-released and refined version of the original game with some minor additions to content. You can essentially see this as a culmination of New World's expansions and free patch updates into one package for $60. But if you've already bought the game at launch, you actually don't have to buy the game again. You get the update for free, you will just need to buy the Angry Earth expansion. But that's only if you want to unlock all of the content in the game. But just how good is this redefined version of New World? Do the improvements to the game warrant you to give this game another try and keep you at your desk long enough so that you seriously consider p***ing into a bottle like the average Amazon employee? First we have the character creation. You'll probably be glad to hear that for once I took the character creation seriously, as that joke is getting pretty old. The character creation is pretty detailed like most other MMOs these days, but I did find it weird how there's only like 3 remotely normal looking hairstyles for men. To be honest, 3 at a push. And the rest are various styles of like curly pigtails and mohawks. So your choices really are 1970s punk, choir boy, or a transvestite, because there's like 25 million female hairstyles, but like 2 male ones for some reason. It's not that I have any kind of issue with being able to look like this in a video game, people should be able to look like however they want, but I sometimes just kind of want to look like a normal bloke who likes football, beer and cars. Instead I have to look like a Peaky Blinder wannabe. But anyway, I'm probably rambling about this too much. New to this update, we now have class archetypes. It doesn't mean that the game has classes now, but it's a bit more of a helping hand for new players to figure out what playstyle they want to begin with, especially as you get to boost certain trade skills. Having so many options for weapons in a MMO is kind of a problem for new players, as you don't want to like force new players through a really boring tutorial where they have to try out every single weapon type at the start of the game. This archetype system does help people just plug and play better, and you can change your weapon as you go along to whatever you want anyway. But I do think there should be a little text box explaining how your weapon choices aren't final when you're picking your archetype. That way players won't think that they're locking into 2 different weapon combos when they start the game. By the way guys, please do me a solid and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be making loads of videos soon covering the news from Warcraft Direct, which is basically like a mini BlizzCon talking about the future of Classic Plus and the future of World of Warcraft in general. And if you're still leveling up in Season of Discovery, Cataclysm, Classic or Retail, please check out my link for the Rest XP add-on. It really does help support the channel. One big difference is the new game introduction now with Aeternum, which is a totally new and more exciting sequence of events to introduce you to the game's core mechanics. I went back to look at when I originally streamed the New World launch and saw myself sitting in a server queue for ages with loads of disconnects.
Okay, yeah, somebody...
I have no idea how satisfying for me it is to get more than 5...
Are you actually taking the royal f***ing piss? Only to finally log into a basic beach with very basic quests, so I can confidently say that the launch of Aeternum was way more interesting and successful. Instead you now start the game on a burning ship, with exciting cinematics to hook you into the game. You then venture onwards to explore a small temple, where you are taught about more controls and mechanics before this concludes in a really fun small boss battle. Even when you're properly into the game and sharing the world with other players, the cinematics and dialogue continue. Every main quest character is fully voice acted now, so for the people out there who want to play New World for a more slow-paced, story-focused RPG leveling experience, that box is definitely ticked. Unfortunately, I have a typical MMO peanut brain and just skip everything because if for any second I'm not gaining experience points in a video game, my blood pressure starts to spike. But you really don't have to play the game this way because it is probably ruining the game for yourself. I think you should just take your time when you play New World. You are going to get way more out of your leveling experience doing that. But straight away, you do get the feeling that this game is more complete, intriguing and soulful. There's actually something going on now that's worth paying attention to when playing the main storyline. An antagonist is brought to light and made very clear from the start, a mysterious corrupted explorer called Isabel who is portrayed through many story-focused cinematics, and there's also mini storyboard cinematics. And to be honest, when you do take the time to watch them properly, they are quite interesting. Alongside the antagonist, we have a lovable rogue-style character, Grace O'Malley, who we rescue from a demon horde, and she joins us along our adventure as we explore Aeternum further. Originally, New World didn't have these kind of characters complementing the main storyline, so you can see what I mean when I say the game just has way more life to it now. It feels like you're now playing New World with the beta over. We're no longer playing the beta. I think this is further illustrated by the first settlement you encounter, Pridwin, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Originally, the first time in New World, or in my experience anyway, it was basically some kind of shantytown that looked like it had been created by players in a sandbox game. It didn't really have a significant presence or distinctive character in the world, whereas now the first town really does feel like you've walked into a medieval fantasy world. First seeing Pridwin on the horizon was actually a nice surprise, to be honest. I instantly got the feeling that this new update had done a really good job at improving the architecture and personality of the settlements in the game. And this was magnified by the short cinematic of bards playing music as I entered the tavern, and it's little moments like this that are important in making the game interesting to players and feel realistic and immersive. This time round, I was way more interested to play New World's main storyline, as it functions just like a single-player RPG storyline would, and even the side quests are usually fully voice acted. In fact, there just seems to be an abundance of a lot more voice acting going on. It simply became a more interesting game. So really, it's the same old New World with the fun action-based combat, addictive crafting systems, fun as hell PvP combat, and now the game is just more of an actual game. The new main storyline revamp would definitely help encourage more casual players to try out New World, especially from that console audience. I think this update has definitely succeeded at repopulating the game, as the world feels very alive and there are so many people always looking for group content. It doesn't take long at all now to get caught up with other players to the max level content, whether this be PvE or PvP, with the increased rate of experience gain the game now has. Now, I definitely wouldn't call New World a hardcore MMO in the traditional sense, but it is a softcore MMO with a lot more proper MMO features than the average MMO has these days, while still remaining solo and casual player friendly. And obviously the unique thing about New World is it does have those Valheim tree chopping vibes. You really could enjoy this game as a single player RPG, to be honest. It's not dissimilar to something like Skyrim, or maybe Greedfall would be a lot more similar. But there's also other players sharing that open world with you. This new update is definitely an improvement on the original launch. The game now finally does feel complete and doesn't feel like a beta test, which, to be honest, was the only problem that New World had originally. It was a lack of that complete feeling and content flow for regular players, meaning the content flow was pretty terrible. Hopefully now, with this re-release, the game will see more success, but realistically the devs do need to have a steady, fresh content flow every 3 to 5 months to keep players hooked and invested, to entertain and cater to that regular player base, to people who are going to play New World, for the next year. But looking at the history of New World and judging by the fact that they haven't released a roadmap or anything, I don't really have the highest hopes. For now though, the game will be very active and fun to play until the end of the year, and if you're considering New World for the first time and you know this is your kind of game, you definitely will find it entertaining, and it's definitely worth those $60. The only real concern for me is the longevity of this game. Can the devs turn the tide and make New World a competitive top MMO? I mean, we'll have to wait and see, obviously. But anyway guys, those are my quick first impressions of New World from the perspective of a World of Warcraft player. My name is Metagoblin. Until the next video, ciao.